Great. So
All right.
thanks for your time today. Maybe you
Yeah,
could
no problem.
introduce yourself by talking a little bit about your current role and how long you've been in that role.
Cool. Yeah, so my name's Madison Grubb. I also go by Kelly. I am a cloud operations engineer for the most part. I've kind of done most like DevOpsy things where I work. And so I've done things like we're a node shop. So one of the main things that we needed kind of early on was some kind of private registry because we were doing enterprise grade stuff and we didn't really want to make open source packages. But we needed to host those packages somewhere, right? So we originally set up something called Verdaccio, or actually it was called Sinopia originally, but it got rebranded and kind of reinvigorated as Verdaccio. We used that briefly and had some problems. It was just really new and not actively maintained at that point. So we kind of moved over to Nexus OSS since we had some Maven repositories as well, and that was kind of the logical choice we thought moving forward. That's kind of what we've used since then until GitLab, until the whole GitHub acquiring NPM and GitLab starting their own NPM registry as an option. And now we're kind of looking at those, but we haven't really done anything with those yet.
Okay, cool.
So we've been doing self-hosting of all of our private packages, but as operations grow, the feasibility of maintaining that ourselves is kind of too much. We don't really, we'd rather spend money on that and do something else, or focus our stuff on other things and not worry about the actual uptime and things like that. Let someone else kind of offload those responsibilities.
I see. And your team is otherwise using GitLab for source code and...
Yeah, we don't use it for issue management, but we do use it for basically all of our code hosting and merge requests. And then we use GitLab CI for pretty much all of our packaging and stuff.
Oh, cool. And how many people are on your team, if you don't mind me asking?
My close team, I guess, would be 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 7. And then if you're talking about like the whole team, we've got the whole company is about 100 people, and most of the people are engineers. So.
Okay, from my experience, that's right about the size when things like packaging starts to become a bit more complex and challenging.
Right, right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So thinking about, I mean, packages probably, some are created manually by you and your team, and then are any pulled from any others? Are any pulled from like the Nexus repository or npm.com, npmjs.com?
Yeah, so we basically barely escaped it, but the whole left pad situation really scared us about the whole pulling public packages. So we audited all of the packages that we actually pull in, and then we ended up creating a cache. So we do pull packages in from the public registry, but we do cache those packages just in case something crazy happens or we need to end up maintaining it, or whatever it is, we're covered and it's not like panic at 3 a.m. kind of thing.
I see. Okay.
And so we kind of have a mix of both.
How do you decide when you say, well, let's use a package for a public package versus let's create this in-house?
That's a good question. We don't really have like a fully formed process with that. Usually it's, hey man, I found this cool package. Let's check it out. And we jump on like NPMs or something like that. Cause they have like a little rating. Are you familiar with NPM and NPMs? They have like a maintainability rating and things like that. So we'll take a look at that and we'll check the license because we blacklist certain licenses, and then we go from there. And that's kind of how we decide. Now for like building our own packages, usually we'll try and find something open and either try and contribute or use it. And if we can't find anything, like it's not been done before, then that's when we'll kind of build our own.
I see. Okay. And then as a developer, how do they know I'm thinking, like how do they, in their code, how do they actually work with the different packages, something hosted on Nexus versus something on NPM? How do they actually code that? Like, do they name it differently or are they scoped differently?
So since we have our private registry that that has a cache and our internal packages, we just have our npm credentials. Like your npm rc. We use that. We do like an npm login. You log into the private registry, and then that's it. So npm installs, some people will use yarn for some of their packages. Regardless of the package manager, you just yarn install or just yarn, and then npm install. No matter what, it'll pull packages from our registry, and if it's not there in our cache, it'll go pull it from the registry and put it into the cache.
I see. How does that that logic get built? Is that built into Nexus, or did you?
That's part of Nexus. That's part of their cache, I guess, feature set is that mirroring capability. And I believe that Verdascio also has that now. It didn't when we originally were messing around with it, which was one of the reasons that we moved away from it. But I believe that's also a feature of them as well.
What feature of Nexus do you find most useful? What's like the can't miss feature?
Most useful feature? I guess the reason, the two main things that we had were the ability to log in with like a group. So you could do a single npm login, and it would log into multiple registries, which would be our cache and the private package registry, which was nice to have as like a single one-liner. Honestly, there's not a whole lot. I'm not a huge fan of Nexus. It's kind of like it works, and it doesn't hurt as much as some of the other stuff. So I guess we'll use it, that kind of thing.
Okay.
There's not a whole lot. This is kind of why we're looking at transitioning to something else. Is like, it's okay, but there's nothing like special about it that we're kind of hooked on.
Is there something that you think about that would be an awesome feature that they could add when you think about what it's actually doing?
I guess one of the things that bothers me right now that they don't have is they don't have audit capabilities. So we actually have to offload all of our audit capabilities to npm's official audit API, which isn't a huge deal. It's an Nginx config, and that's pretty much it. But realistically speaking, if it just worked and you didn't have to do any fiddling and any management with that would be super cool. Because we've had a lot of times where we're running through a package. We want to use npm audit because, who wouldn't want to know that their package has some vulnerabilities or something? We'll run it through the CI, and then the CI job fails, and we're like, what the heck? Why did it fail? It was fine. And we'll look at it, and it'll say, hey, npm registry is down for now. Like, we can't have our own audit that manages that. And I know GitLab has like some higher level dependency scanning and stuff like that, but I haven't messed with it, mostly because it's in the gold tier and we're in the silver tier.
Okay.
But maybe that would solve that. I don't know. We haven't messed with that before.
Okay. Yeah, what we're thinking about adding now is the idea of just the remote repositories, because right now GitLab just lets you have the local repository that you're adding packages to. And
right.
for npm, if it's not found there, it'll look on npm.com. And then what we want is the ability, like in Nexus, you can add multiple repositories. So you could also pull from S3 if you want, or you could pull from another file system somewhere. And then having those be cached, so you don't have to worry about downloading them and fetching them each time. And then from there, you probably
caching is a big deal in my opinion, because downtime is very valuable.
And are you noticing, does it affect your build times at all? Like, is it frustrating in that regard, or it's more just about avoiding downtime?
It's nice. Obviously you can make your CI run significantly faster if you've already got everything cached, and you just up and at them. It's not a big deal. So it is nice. But the thing that I'm mostly concerned about is just the giganticness of npm's registry. Any kind of downtime can be scary, and especially if we need to like publish something or a fix, or release a fix or something, or fix a dependency. We need that to be available immediately, especially customers breathing down your neck saying, hey, we need this like right now. We don't want to be like, oh, well, sorry, registry's down, give us a few hours. Like it doesn't look very nice, right? If you have caching measures in place, usually you can block a lot of that out, which is why it matters so much to me, in my opinion, at least.
Can you tell me about the last time that happened to you, that you were impacted by either NPM being down or maybe some issue with Nexus?
So the original time, I can't remember the name of the package, but we use React, and it was some React library, and not like a core React library, but like I believe it was a component library that we were messing around with. The maintainer, I don't know if there was like some drama or anything like that, but they ended up pulling their package. They might have just wanted to rename it or something, but we were actively using that in production and had no idea about that. And so that was kind of scary to us, and that was kind of one of the things that made us transition to it.
I see. Okay.
But there's been a couple of issues where packages kind of just vanished on npm briefly and things like that, and we haven't had any of that affect us really. I guess the only thing that's really affected us is like more recently would be I believe React DOM, and there's one more package. There's two packages that were released, and there was like a temporary 4.4 that was released. So our cache grabbed it, but then they immediately unpublished it and realized that their symbol was wrong, so they published it as 5.0. And so some of our projects were like pulling in 4.4.0 because it was in the cache, so it must be legitimate. So we've had a little, an inverse of the problem recently, but a lot of the stuff that has come up in the news or something where some XYZ packages suddenly disappeared or anything like that. It's been nice to continue sleeping through the night and not worrying about that.
Yeah. How does someone know if I'm going to be coding something and I want to add a new package and it's in the cache somewhere? How will they go and identify which specific version they should use? Is it documented somewhere, or?
So we use package locks. So that gives us our defined range. So as our maintainers, or each project has a team that's supposed to maintain those projects, and those teams are responsible for making sure that the packages are up to date. Some teams have used like Greenkeeper, things like that. But that's kind of how we've done version management in the past.
I see. And it's working well for you, or has it been working well?
Yeah, I mean, having deterministic builds through a lock file is nice, and then our CI uses npm CI's the CLI command npm CI. So we just pull stuff from the package lock, which means we get the exact versions that we want all the time, which is
oh, nice. That's cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know about that feature actually. So how does that work?
So npm install has like its dependency management algorithm where it takes a look at the package JSON, looks at the carets, looks at the squiggles, all that stuff, and then tries to do resolution based off of that, right? And then it spits all that out into a package lock file. And that package lock is like, that's it. Originally, I guess it was the shrink wrap file, but package lock, yarn.lock, it's like a bundle.lock or something like that in the Ruby world. So at that point, you have a deterministic set of modules that you have installed for your project. So at that point, npm CI is just a CLI command that instead of doing all that dependency resolution algorithm stuff, it just looks at the package lock. It doesn't look at the package JSON at all. It just uses the package lock and installs packages directly from that.
Oh, that's really cool.
Way faster, and especially if you've got layers, of course. So now if you've got a cached registry, and you've got the CI command, and you've got your modules also cached in your CI, of choice. In our case, like GitLab CI. Then now you've got like this super fast dependency installation for all of your testing and QA and all that fun stuff. So cool. It's a pretty killer combination when you get it all together.
That's awesome. I was thinking as you were talking about scoping packages. So how
Mhm.
actually will your teams, or how are they scoping packages? Is it to the project level or the feature level?
Um, so we've done it on like group or like team level. So we have like a top level team, which kind of all of the generic packages go into, and then each team will have their at whoever whatever the team is called scope, and then we'll use that scope to install packages to whatever it is. They're all in the same registry, just scoping makes it prettier and easier to look at.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. And then no problems working with Nexus on that, right? Because it all rolls up into that one parent group or?
Um, we've had some issues with that. The main issue is that publishing images or sorry, not images. I'm in the Docker world. Publishing npm modules uh, to a specific scope. We've had these weird situations here and there, and I'm to be honest, I don't know what we're doing wrong really. But we'll put the team name, in the package JSON. We'll go ahead and publish it, and then it will fail to authenticate, and it ends up that the credentials required have to explicitly include that scope in the RC file to actually deploy to that scope, which is really weird, and it only seems to happen sometimes. And I don't know if that's just an issue with Nexus or if there's something that we're doing, configuration-wise that we're missing or something like that. But it's really weird, and I'm not really sure what's causing it.
Oh, interesting. I haven't,
It's kind of been a headache off and on.
yeah, I could see, especially those like hard to track down errors or can be a
Yeah.
pain. Um, okay, I think what what can I do or like what when you okay, sorry. How do you learn about new
No worries.
GitLab? How do you learn about like, new GitLab features?
All right, so I'm a huge nerd. So it's either on Hacker News. Someone usually posts it on Hacker News. I think people are complaining because GitLab posts like every month on Hacker News. And they're like,
Yeah,
oh, God, you guys are just releasing a new thing. Stop posting about it. It's like, but I actually kind of like to look through those. But if they don't show up on Hacker News, usually every month I'll jump on the blog and just take a look at the all the feature set that whatever the blog posts
that's
about.
cool.
There's always some cool stuff. So usually I'll go take a look, and I might miss one or two here and there. So it's even more exciting jumping back and going, oh wait, what? This is available now. So
That's cool. Yeah, yeah, I love GitLab and creating all that content and stuff. So I hear you. What I'm wondering, the reason I ask is because I'm wondering, as you're considering, hey, we want to get rid of Nexus, maybe we would consider switching to GitLab. How can we help with you in that in making that decision and understanding if we have enough features and things like that?
um, I mean, this might be just on me. I have not looked through a lot of the handbook information about transitioning to the new NPM registries. Um, we just recently swapped from bronze to silver, so it wasn't even an option until now.
Okay,
So I think the main thing I'm needing to do is some research and just looking at what's available and how to get it set up. Um, One thing that does kind of concern me a little bit, and of course this is just my naivety,
of course.
so keep that in mind, I guess. Um, I know in the past, so we use the container registry all the time, um, and I'm a little concerned about fragmentation of like managing a lot of projects if it follows the same paradigm as the container registry does,
Say
because
more. Yeah.
it was a little bit confusing to a lot of people on the different teams when we were trying to kind of adopt Docker CI/CD pipeline type stuff.
Uh-huh.
We started publishing new container images, right? Um, and we would, like for example, we spun up our own little CI script pipeline, and so we had a custom image that would actually run specific commands on it. So we built that image and we tossed it into that same repo's container registry. And then later on, we had our own product. We wanted to make an image of it, so we did the same thing. And it was confusing to people because they were going, wait, this address is like a GitLab address, and this address is completely different over here. where do I just like see all of the company's images? And
Okay.
we're like, you can't. I mean, we could make like a web page that could view all of them, like using GitHub, using the GitLab API or something maybe. But there's not like a just general location of where the images are. So it was kind of hard for people to like discover what images were available in the company and what they did, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
So
that
I don't
sounds
know.
like a really cool feature. How is your GitLab instance set up? Is it many groups and then subgroups and
Right.
projects, or?
We have one top level group, or I guess we have two top level groups. One that's like open source facing, and one that's our private stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then we have subgroups throughout each of those, which is super nice because previously we used Bitbucket, and they have no way of like managing the permissions on like a group level, and
Oh,
it got really gross and really weird really fast. So that was one of the big reasons we ended up moving to GitLab, is to be able to manage those groups in a more granular, useful fashion, in my opinion.
oh, cool.
But yeah, that's at the same time, it's kind of cool. I guess one of the features I think about would be like the group analytics. Like how you can do like I think there's like a burn down chart and stuff for like issues that are group level as well as subgroups and stuff and
Uh-huh.
project level. If you could actually view your package registry some way in a similar fashion to like take a look at your group and say, hey, here's my group, here's the available packages in my various container registries. I think that would make discoverability a lot better because people would immediately be able to look in a singular spot for their group that they're in and go, here's all of our images, or here's all of our registry endpoints, or
I
XYZ.
see. And what information would be most valuable on that view for you?
Um, I guess it would mostly be the path because for Docker or npm, you kind of need to know what's the package name or what's the scope.
Hmm.
What am I Docker pulling? What am I npm installing? Right. So the actual package names of things that were available. I don't know how you guys are going to handle scoping. If you do it like on a per group level, I don't know if there's even like nested scopes. I think you can only have singular top level scopes. Um,
Yeah.
but being able to view that, the name of the packages that you would have available to install, that would be a big deal to me. And where to find those packages if you're looking for like the actual source. That would be the main
Okay.
two things that I would be interested in, would be those two
Cool.
things.
So like where the package is located in terms of which project, but also like which branch and which commit maybe is responsible for generating it.
Oh, yeah, that would be even better. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we do have some of that information. I know for the container registry, the UI is a little, can be a little slow sometimes, but we actually just added a group level view recently in 12.
What? Okay.
Yeah, it's come.
I'm a little bit behind. Sorry
I
about
think I
that.
think it's coming out in like 7 days, but it's available on
Oh, okay.
.com now, but it'll be available in a few days. Um, but yeah, that's really helpful. I think that's really good advice for the package registry too, is like be able to roll everything up to the instance level and make it discoverable and shareable.
Right.
Is that a way that do you think developers, who is that feature for? Is it for developers or is it for compliance people?
Um, I had not even thought about compliance. I was mostly thinking from a developer viewpoint because that's kind of my day to
Yeah.
day is, hey, I'm a dev. I need to know where my packages are. I need to know what's available. What can I install? All that kind of fun stuff. But yeah, from a, if we're looking at like, the SAST and things like that, just any kind of analytics, that's also a big deal to be able to look at that and go, okay, we've published these packages. This package has XYZ vulnerabilities or whatever. That's that. I mean, that's also super cool to have. So I could see that being a use case as well, or a
Okay.
customer base as well.
When you meant we were talking about the cache earlier, and I was wondering how often do you clear the cache? Like, do you have any rules in place for automatically purging it or anything like that?
Um, I guess we're a little Stone Age there. If it's fine, then it's fine. I believe we have like a default cache policy of like, I want to say like 7 days. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
But we haven't really had any problems with it. And if it does, we usually will just manually clear the cache and restart it.
Okay.
Restart a job or like redo whatever it is. That's kind of rare. I personally have not really done that in like a long time, maybe a year, year and a half, something like that.
And it hasn't
We don't
caused
really
any
have like a
problems.
big,
Yeah.
we don't really have many, we don't have like a big policy on that.
Okay. And then on that note, you mentioned using the container registry. Have you been able to use at all the GitLab, the image expiration policies at all?
No, I haven't used that at all. I was kind of a little bit surprised that they live seemingly forever. So I would probably use that. I didn't know that existed until now. So
I'm going to send you a
I will
follow-up
look into
email.
it.
Yeah. I'll send you a follow-up email with a couple of links just to like documentation. But because I was wondering, does your organization have problems with like storage costs for the container registry? Because I know a lot of people I've talked to have said like, yeah, it gets really expensive because you're storing all
Yes.
these.
Yeah, that was, so we also use Nexus for our container, some of our container images. The ones that, I guess we use it to store images that are big, like any of our larger stuff. We messed around with, so I wasn't on the team that messed with this, so I'm super hazy with it, but I believe we used like Quay at some point briefly, and it was like really expensive, and so we dropped it. I don't know. I don't think we're using it anymore. Sorry, I don't know
That's
a whole lot about it. But I think that was kind of part of the cost, or part of the problem was cost, and so I mean, personally, I only use the either Docker Hub for the open stuff or the GitLab container registry for our private stuff, for my teams at least. So
cool.
I wouldn't know, but I would bet that it is a bit more expensive.
Okay, we have only like a minute left. Is there a question that you wish I would have? Is there a question that you wish I would have asked you, or that you thought I might have asked about, or anything else that we should talk about before we end?
Not that I can think of. I think we went over most of the stuff. I guess the main thing that I had been concerned about was, I guess, discoverability.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, I will send you a link for for the group container registry browser. That'll just be like a fun thing to share. And then, of course, if you ever have any suggestions or questions, the nice thing about doing these like user interviews is you kind of have a direct line to me now. Like you could always just reach out and say, hey, I'm like, could you help me get attention on this issue or something like that? I'd be happy to help. So.
Okay.
Well, it was great meeting you, and
nice to meet you as well.
I'll look forward to talking to you in the issues and in the future.
All right.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, thank you. See ya.